So I'm Elise Stolte, and my presentation is on engagement with limited resources. You can see my screen there? Yeah, good. Um, so I have a bit of a unique approach to this because I've got two roles at the moment. I'm on the steering committee for Taproot Edmonton, which is a local startup. I did the training with them, the election SOS engaged election training over the summer. Their challenge is that they have a small team, just 3 people, and nobody is able to put their full time into doing the engagement project. So what they've done is they've figured out a way to kind of break that into smaller chunks to try and get the engagement done. My full-time job is with the Edmonton Journal. I'm a journalist there. And in the fall and winter, we've been doing a series of engagement projects with a small team. Basically, I'm doing that one on my own. So the People's Agenda is what Taproot Edmonton is doing. They've had a full year to figure out what they're doing because they're looking at a municipal election, with the election being in October. And they have that classic key question that they're asking. Their process is that they have an online survey. They're using a free survey technology to do that. They've had a couple hundred people answer it, which has been really good. And in order to analyze all that data that came in, they had a volunteer come forward from within their community who's a master's student at the University of Alberta. So she went through that big data set and figured out 8 different buckets that these submissions would fall into. Out of that, they decided to do a series of live events and roped in a local podcaster from within their community to host those events and organize those events. Then they had an intern join them for a couple of months. So that intern is doing summaries out of each of the event to publish on their website and again, reflect back to the community what they're talking about. Then they'll have a series of freelancers tackle more in-depth articles in each of those buckets, and it'll lead to a voter's guide. For the Edmonton Journal, my project is we called it Groundwork. The idea is that we have 3 months to tackle a project. In the fall, we looked at schools and COVID. This winter, it's been about seniors. Our process is that, again, we're starting with an online survey, asking big, broad questions about what was on people's minds regarding going back to school in COVID. Seniors, like what seniors and their caregivers, what was on their minds. And out of that, we just started to see these big themes, like the big concerns about the vaccine rollout and the lack of information, and then also concerns about isolation and how to bridge that, worries about seniors who are isolated and their caregivers. That helped us to frame what we were going to tackle, leading to more research and interviews and often further surveys to go deeper on specific topics, like what questions they had on the vaccine rollout, and now what the experience of being a caregiver is like. And each of those surveys has a lot of space for just writing and storytelling from people who are hyper engaged. Then we're doing the writing and publishing and evaluating each project. What we've learned is that engagement is really worked. There's a huge hunger for it. Both projects have done a really good job of engaging the existing audience. For the Seniors and COVID project, we've had more than 700 people, often filling out long surveys with lots of information. Just a real hunger. It's opened up the news process. It's given people a voice where they didn't have it before, and strengthened our journalism because it's taken us in directions that I wasn't anticipating when we started the process, and surfaced sources who I wouldn't have found otherwise. If we hadn't been so transparent about what we wanted to know, we wouldn't have had these people come forward. Both of the projects did network mapping. So we have a clear idea of who we are likely to hear from within that existing audience. When we put out our online surveys and we push that out through social and stuff, we had a pretty good idea of who would respond. And in fact, those people are the ones who responded. We tried to reach out beyond that as well. Through the process of network mapping, we identified different groups that we wanted to hear from. And that was really important. That definitely moved the needle. It definitely gave me new insights, but it's like time is a barrier. And I've left with this feeling that there's so much work to do still. I still feel like we just aren't far enough. And that's, I guess, to be expected. But that's actually why I signed up to do this presentation and why I'm really excited for the conversation this afternoon, because I want to know how can even a small organization engage more broadly. One idea is partnering with a community organization. Maybe there's someone we can really go in deep with. Hiring freelancers from those communities of interest is something that Taproot is already looking into. And maybe we can do it piecemeal. Maybe another intern can spend a day physically tabling, like was talked about before, physically going into those communities. So really excited to hear your ideas. If you have other ideas, I would love to see them in the chat, or if you want to just point me in a direction of somebody else who's done something really cool as a small organization, or drop me an email, send me a Twitter, or join me this afternoon. So thank you.